So do I look at you or the camera?
Whatever you feel most comfortable with, Liam. How are you?
Doing great. Good on yourself.
Okay. Welcome everybody. This is Thoughts of a Born Free, and we're talking to Liam Padiachi, a good friend of mine. He is a architecture graduate, and we're just here to ask him just a brief overview about what architecture is, how it was to study it, and how we got into it. So Liam, without any further ado, how was architecture in the beginning? What made you decide to go into architecture?
Okay. So what made me go into architecture is I was always creative when I was young, and I always liked to draw, specifically houses. And this was before I even knew that architecture was a thing. It used to be art to me, and to draw houses. And also I learned from my dad, like making small houses out of like cardboard boxes and stuff. Back then when you were a kid, that's kind of fun. Without even knowing that it was a big part of architecture, because when you study, even when you're working, you find out that there's such thing called models. And it's like they make little replicas of buildings. It's very important. So I did all of that. Then found out later that architecture was a thing. Before I studied, I used to work for a couple of months for a company called 3PM for Design. And what they did was they installed cupboards for hotels. So back then when I was working, we worked on site, and it was before the hotel was complete. So I found myself on a construction site, and then that was very interesting to me. It was like very, the construction site is like a lot of havoc. There's a lot of like big machineries, laborers, all those stuff, and then just being on a construction site and seeing an incomplete building was interesting to me. And then from there I decided I want to go into architecture. I ended up doing a degree, a Bachelor of Architecture in the University of Johannesburg. It's 3 years, and then if you want to, you can do your honors and masters, which is a further 2 years. And then that's the steps. There's also different routes to do whatever you want to do. You don't necessarily have to do a degree. You can do drafting, you can do mentorships. There's different parts to take.
Oh no, that's quite interesting. So basically, a large part of it was natural, like your natural interest that kind of led you there, but you didn't know about them. They were kind of things, elements to yourself that you found later. Do you find that with your architecture degree, it's more passion? It's not passion based specifically, but there's a great benefit to being somebody that's already interested in designing the buildings and everything else like that. And not only with the interest in design, what subjects would you have needed to take in school? Is there like, if you didn't take, for example, EGD or civil tech, would you still be able to go into architecture and strive?
Great question, and I'm a great example of that, because none of the subjects that I took in school benefited me in my university. They didn't even offer EGD as a subject. You guys at school have EGD.
Yeah. So
like I took the basic maths, Afrikaans, English, and then accounting. Back then I thought I wanted to do accounting, but that's when a lot of people don't know what they want to do at that specific age. So they just do what like parents put ideas into your head, or friends, family put ideas in your head, and you just say, okay, I'm going to go with that, without realizing your passion. That was me in school. Everything that I learned for architecture began when I started studying at the University of Johannesburg. And the way that they have it set up is like, you start off like drawing with your hands. And then anyone can do that. And then only later on you move on to like things that you would consider is like EGD based. So you don't need to worry about what subjects you took in school. It's more like your willingness to learn new things.
So somebody can just jump into it fresh faced, not having the pre information and the knowledge and the subjects and stuff like that. That's great to hear. So by the looks of it, architecture wasn't your first choice, but it's something that you found a passion in. So I knew you personally, and you did have a period of time where you, mind the leaf blow in the background, where you were at a different university studying a different course, and you transferred. How was the experience of transferring from different universities and finding your passion as well?
That's a funny story. So earlier I mentioned that parents like plant seeds in your head.
Yes.
Tells you like what route you want to do. my mom really wanted me to do mechanical engineering.
Oh.
Back then, I didn't know what I wanted to do. That was before I started working, so I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I just went with the flow, and then I ended up going to Monash. I was there for half a year before I realized that this course is too hard for me.
Okay.
It was way too hard for me, and I had no passion for it, which made it even harder. So what I did was halfway through the year, I told my mom, listen, I can't do this anymore, and I need to take a different route. And she wasn't upset about it. She accepted it. The flop was when it came to exams, I didn't go for exams.
Oh.
So whenever you need a transfer institutions, you need a transfer script. Little did I know that transfer script shows your results.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine what those results look like before writing exams.
Oh, because they took it as a full term
as a zero.
action. Oh,
As all the
okay.
exams are 0, 0, 0, 0.
Okay.
So then I was stressed that when like other universities look at my transfer script, they're gonna see my marks are like 10 and 9%.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that they don't really care about that. They still care about your matric and your grade 11. So it doesn't matter what you did after high school. You can apply with your high school and still get into whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Transferring isn't a problem. Also, when you transfer, let's just say like you pay for the whole year, but you only do like one semester. They do refund you for what you didn't.
What you did.
Yeah.
So
that was
that's good. That's good. So another thing I wanted to ask you was about your university experience doing architecture. I know there's a lot of different ideas of what your university experience might be, depending on what degree you do. And I think, from what I know, little that I know about architecture, it's very demanding on your time.
Yeah.
And every degree is difficult and has demands on your time. But from my understanding, there's also teammate elements to architecture that you have to both partner up with different people to make projects and to do your designs and everything else like that. And how important is it to have some social skills that you try to build up throughout your university? Because I can imagine that when you have X amount of people in your class, but you don't interact with them, when you put on a group project, you don't know who to pick with, who you gel well with, and everything else like that. So how important is the social aspect of building close relationships with your people?
I feel like COVID changed everything. I feel like before COVID, there was a stronger sort of like teamwork and there was like more collaboration. Students preferred to work together. But ever since COVID happened, we spent majority of our studies online.
Okay.
And majority of the time we were like just working in like our own space. And then when we did go back to campus, we continued working in our own space. And it was a problem that was pointed out. COVID did like not ruin, I would say changed the environment a lot. So like what I experienced was the whole of first year and half of second year was online. So that's all I knew. Going back into studio is what we called it, was everyone was like isolated in their own space. The projects, they did try to like have group projects which made us work together. Those are always a disaster.
Oh, okay.
Always a disaster. There was always fights, this and that. I don't know if that's just how we are or if that's because of COVID. But like in general, what happens is you often like make a group of friends, which was I did. I had like a group of 4 friends.
Okay.
And we'd always find ourselves like working together in studio on our own projects. And then often like you would need help or you need advice or you need critique. Then you'll ask your friends. So they were friend groups. In architecture specifically, what will happen is that like people do copy designs.
Okay.
I've noticed that a lot. So what will happen was like we'll work on our own, but we'll hide a lot of the work that we do. Then you'll see like students like working, you'll see a little bit of their work. Then when the time comes to present their work, it's like a whole new project that you haven't seen before. Reason for that is that they don't want people to copy their work.
Okay.
That's architecture.
Are there
In terms of designing.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. Are there any penalties in terms of like if somebody does have a similar design to you, or do they have the same system of like, okay, it could just be parallel thinking?
No, because remember, it's not like you're working for a firm. It's not
Okay.
like you own that property. Whatever you come up with, if someone comes up with something similar to you, then you just have to go with it. But obviously now it's like a test. You can't go and copy your friends' marks and then expect to get away with it. So there is a limit to it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And you mentioned that there's more elements to architecture than just drawing the houses.
Yeah.
That you do have the model work. Are there any other hidden elements that somebody that's going into architecture would need to know about that?
Well, it's very important that there's different mediums when it comes to studying at university. Obviously, you start off with like the basic stuff like hand drawings, and they really pushed us to like do crazy things like paintings and using clay and using chalk. There's a lot of different mediums. I would say if I had to give advice to a student about all of that, is to have a grasp of everything, but find which one you're comfortable with and become the best at that specific medium.
Okay.
So like, for example, they start us off with drawing with pencils, then we move to pens, then this and that, then eventually we move to computers, then we learn all the different softwares, and then from there there's different levels of softwares. With me specifically, I felt like my software skills were a lot better than like my hand drawings. So I thought, okay, let me rather focus on that. So I spent 2 years working and learning softwares myself. And then for presentations and stuff, I'll just present all of that stuff. Whereas some people are just like very good artists.
Yeah.
So they can like draw these crazy things that's very impressive, and then it can compete with the level of softwares, which is very cool, very impressive, and everyone's different.
Okay. So spec very much so into your own abilities. So learn everything broadly, but what you find yourself best capable to do forward and really do the best you can. Okay, no, that's great. That's great.
But also, I have to say, like in terms of when the time comes to work, you can forget about all the hand drawings and paintings and stuff. Companies only care about like software work.
Okay.
Then you're talking about like learning softwares like AutoCAD and Revit and V-Ray. That's also why I chose to go that route, because I knew that by the time when I come to work, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay. So there are certain specific elements of the architecture degree that are better suited after the degree itself in terms of employment and stuff.
You have to think about the big picture and be realistic. But in terms of like university experience, it's 3 years to learn and like fool around and try out new things. Okay. So that's why I mentioned other mediums.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So how have you been finding the post-graduate life? You know, in terms of looking for jobs and opportunities.
So after you finish your degree, you have two options. You can continue studying or go straight to internships.
Okay.
So a lot of my friends are like doing their honors and stuff, so they're going to stay in UJ. They can also go to different universities. It depends where they want to apply for. Me specifically, I want to work for a couple of years, then maybe go back and do my postgrad. So it is hard to like find internships, especially well-paying internships, because if you look at it from a firm's point of view, what's the point of hiring an intern? The point is to get the most work out of you for a lower rate.
Yes.
Because why would they pay a qualified architect so much money when they can just pay an intern, like not peanuts, but like pay them unfairly to produce that kind of work?
Yes.
So right now, especially in like South Africa's economy, it's not doing as well as like overseas countries like Dubai and UK and all those other countries. So in order to find a nice internship is hard.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. You're talking from experience, it is hard. Even to find jobs or to find mentorships, there's a catch.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be like they're gonna overwork you, they're gonna underpay you, or you're not gonna find one at all.
Okay.
And there's a lot of students. It's very competitive. There's always, because like how we apply is like we not only have a CV, we have a portfolio demonstrating our work.
Yes.
So now when you're applying for jobs, you're competing with like the top students, and there's always going to be someone that's like more skilled than you, more determined than you. You're competing with the best. The companies are going to choose the best.
Okay, that does make sense.
So my comment is that it's very competitive. Very competitive.
Very competitive, but another question, can your skills be transferred overseas? So in terms of, if you go to another country and you're there for a period of time, can you like apply internationally with your degree? Yes. Or do you have to do updates to it or like meet their own criteria in that country? Or is it just universal in the sense that you can go be an architect in America tomorrow? Okay,
so the softwares that we learn are like nationwide. So you will see that like the softwares that I mentioned, one like Revit is the
Yes.
most popular one. Every country will be using that same software.
Okay.
So if you can prove to them like, listen, this is what I'm capable of, I can do this and this with the same softwares that you use, then it's not a problem. The issue comes in with like rules and regulations.
Okay.
So like South Africa will have like certain like rules when it comes to building and like regulations that you have to follow. That a different country will have different rules and regulations that you need to learn, but that's what you spend your internship doing. So like as an intern, you don't design.
Yeah.
You get given a design by an architect and you have to like put it together, do all the work that no one else wants to do.
Okay.
So it's not important for you to know all the rules and regulations when going overseas, because they're going to teach it to you.
Okay.
For the next 2 years, they're going to teach it to you.
Okay.
But the softwares are nationwide and not nationwide, they're international. And as long as you can do them and you can like model up buildings, then you can work wherever you want to work.
Okay.
What even happens is you can work remotely. So like someone from India will hire you and say, listen, they'll give you the building and they'll say model it up.
Okay.
Model it up means like build a 3D version of it on a program.
Okay.
So as long as you can do that, then you're good to go. They'll hire you.
No, that's great. That's great. So even though it is competitive, you do have a skill that can go where it is needed internationally.
You still have skills that are
Yeah.
beneficial to firms everywhere.
Okay, no, that's great. So just before we end off, I want to ask you for 3 bits of advice that you'd give your first yourself, your second yourself, and your third yourself.
Okay, so the first advice that I said was learn all the mediums,
Yeah.
see what's best for you. Number 2 is I would say have a strong opinion.
Okay.
Always have a strong opinion, because when you're dealing with studies and architecture, I feel like the architecture lecturers are like architects that didn't cut it. I'm not like throwing hate. You do get people that are like passionate about teaching and
Yes,
stuff.
yes, yes.
But majority of the time it's like dealing with people that think that they treat you like you're an employee.
Okay.
They're not really give you the sense to like, I'm here to teach you.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like insecurity that they have, or I don't know what it is, but dealing with them is very difficult. And what happens is that they kind of like force you to just not have an opinion anymore.
Okay.
So it's very important to like have an opinion and stand out, and if you don't agree with something, then say it. It's very important. Number 2 is that it's very important to know that there's a big difference between studying and working. There's a big difference. And if I can just take a look over here. Okay. Okay, so as a student, you're also allowed to like make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because like, let's just say if a lecturer tells you you need A, B, and C done by tomorrow comes and then you don't have it, it's not the end of the world, you'll just get a bad mark. Whereas in reality, if you have that kind of mindset, they're going to look at you and say, okay, we're going to fire you. Like I said, it's very competitive, you're easily replaceable. It's not like, and also when it comes to studies, you have to remember that you pay in the university to be there. And universities look bad when they have like a high failure rate.
Yeah.
So they are going to help you to pass.
Okay.
Whereas in the real world, they're like looking for reasons to, if you're not good enough for them, they're all going to fire you. If you give them reasons to, it's going to be a problem. Also, when you're a student, you get instant gratification. Because you're working on a project that's only like 1 month max.
Okay.
Work on it, you get all the credit for that project. After 1 month, you see the finished product, you get your mark, you know exactly. In real life, you're working on projects that can go like years, not years, like a year.
Yeah.
You don't get that instant gratification, and on top of that, you don't get the credit.
Okay.
That's a big difference when it comes to like students that need the motivation. But everyone gets motivated by different things. Also, when you are a student, everything's focused on you. It's all about you. When you're working, it's like everything's about everyone else, and you put yourself out of the picture.
Okay.
Which is also very important when it comes to like coming up with your designs. Because when you're a student, you get to do what you want to do. You get to put your designs in. I call it you have your own language. That's your style that you put in all your projects. In real life, you can forget about that. Only if you end up becoming a head designer many years later, you get to put your own designs. But a large part of your life is going to be you doing the technical work of someone
Okay.
else's design.
Okay, can you just expand upon the technical work of somebody else's design?
Okay, so technical work is like basically like instructions to give to builders.
Okay.
Because like a head architect will just do like a sketch or what, or you have an idea and you give it a design. But the thing is you can't give that to the builders and you can't come up with a budget, you can't come up with a schedule within that.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna give it to people lower than you. Then they're gonna do like the technical drawings and from there you can do the budget, you can do the schedule, you can do the procurement. And it's like that's basically like when you're working with softwares like Revit and CAD and all that stuff. It's the
Okay.
boring black and white drawings that you see.
They give you the paperwork to
The
do.
paperwork, yeah.
Okay. No, that's interesting. That's interesting. And when it comes to something like independent contracting, let's say if I want to ask you personally to build my house and everything else like that, that also comes with its own challenges in terms of working one-on-one with somebody. How do you turn that into a job as well?
Okay, well, dealing with clients is horrible, I have to say. Clients are very demanding, and they don't understand the work that you need to put in and the procedures that you need to follow. Dealing with clients is hard, but if you're doing projects on your own, which I do now as like a side hustle, you do have the satisfaction of having your own designs. You do earn more if you had to like work for another firm. It does have its benefits, but it's very hard, and the worst part is that the risk is all on you.
Okay.
So let's just say if you work on a firm, firms have a large budget for insurance and lawyers and all that stuff, which is very important. Insurance is a very important thing. When you're working on your own, especially when you're just starting off, you don't have the budget for that.
Yeah.
It's like your head is sticking out of the water, and then whatever happens is on you. Yeah, it's also nice, like if you are doing your own work, is to have like a team. It's nice to like have someone to give opinion or someone to like help you with the workload. It's very important, I would say.
Okay, no, that's great. So Liam, I really would like to thank you for this interview, and hopefully we'll be seeing you soon with more follow-up questions and a bit of a deeper dive into the architecture experience in university, and maybe even just a little bit of the period of like how you started to walk in the shoes of becoming an architect, because you weren't taught it much in school and you really started from zero at university. So you'd be the perfect person to walk us through architecture in the most in-depth way possible.
Yeah, just before we wrap up, you told me about advice for other students.
Yes.
Like I said, that there's a lot of different parts to take. And then the part that I took was going to university. A lot of students struggle with funding when it comes to university,
Okay.
like, including myself. It
Yes.
becomes a real problem. But there's always ways around it as long as you act on it first. NSFAS helps a lot.
Yeah.
NSFAS will pay for your whole fees, they'll give you accommodation, they'll pay for your food, all of that stuff. It helps a lot. There's also bursaries and learnerships and all that stuff. There's different routes to take. And if you do want to pursue it, don't be disencouraged by
the
obstacles
price.
and all that stuff. There's always different ways around it. Just need to do your research and look for opportunities.
Okay, no, that's great. That's great to hear, my man.
Yeah, that's
And-
all I have to say. Yeah.
So hopefully for the next episode we have Liam back on, and he can go a little bit more in depth with how everything worked in the architecture degree in the university day by day, and how it was the difference between being a student at res, driving in the COVID times, especially that was a very difficult time as well, and also how it was adjusting through all of those moments in university and in life in general. So
That's
yeah,
true.
thank you, and we'll see you guys soon.
So how long was that?